It's time for the podcast, which is all about the world of marketing on television through TV, shopping networks, and infomercials. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Sean Wilsey, and for over 29 years I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. And now I want to be your guide into this world, explaining how it works, why it works, what doesn't work, and introduce you to the people who are making it the success that it is today. And on this episode, we're getting into the time machine again. We're going to go back to the mid-1980s because it dawned on me after the show, 2 shows ago, I guess it would have been, when we were having some fun with Jim Bakker's attempt at selling products on television. And at one point, because it was so huckster is the word I wanted to use, and I guess it really was. And I made the comparison how it was like old school shopping, and I thought this is where I need to start honking the horn. You'll hear this at the very end of my shows. What that is the horn from the Home Shopping Club, back when they were Home Shopping Club. And if you go back and find the episode with Bob Circosta, he explains why they would honk horns. But it dawned on me, I've never really played any of the old footage. And so it's kind of out of context to be throwing out that sound effect if you don't know the foundation as to what Home Shopping Club was like back then. Now, there's not a ton of footage of the earliest days out there. I happen to, on a videotape that I got digitized before my VCR broke, I had some footage of Home Shopping Club from 1987. And in the video, and I'm going to play some audio from that to again, put that into context. In the video, you're going to hear a host by the name of Steve Chaney. Steve Chaney, I wish I could have on the show, but sadly he is no longer with us. He's part of the reason why I got into this industry. I'll never forget watching him, and that's the reason I have this. It's an hour clip. Obviously, I'm not going to play that. We got about 4 minutes, I think I've set aside here. He's part of the reason I got into the industry, because I thought he was so good, and I loved what he was doing. Now, again, in the historical context of how TV shopping looks today, what you're going to hear is why I was saying Jim Bakker and his family were hitting all of the home shopping cliches from the earliest days in that bit that I was playing. So this is from the start of his show. The host did 3-hour shifts in a row back then. Remember, this was no format, no scheduled shows. In fact, I've got a book here I was going to read because they describe it better than anyone. The book is called Teleshopping. I've had this book, probably since 1987. I mean, the pages are yellow. I've had this book forever. And here's how they describe Home Shopping Club. They pioneered the freewheeling yard sale style selling technique. I love that. Now found on most teleshopping programs. Well, that obviously didn't last. But found on most teleshopping with items offered on a random basis. Recent prices included a 2-carat cubic zirconia ring with a suggested list price of $40.50, which sold for $13.50, and an Epson pocket television. I remember those. I had a Casio pocket television. They were little portable black and white TVs. $530 list, $195 home shopping price. Prices range from $6.75 for 2 feather dusters. I had those. I remember those. That was on Home Shopping Club probably daily for years. $6.75 to $1,740 for a Hammond organ. I never saw that. Soft goods such as clothing are not widely available, although network officials say they will soon move to more 4-size, small, medium, large, and extra large items such as coats and sweaters. And now, of course, clothing dominates QVC anyways. Home shopping to a degree as well. But again, that's how they described Home Shopping Club in 1987. Enough talk. Let's take a listen.
Live from Tampa Bay, Florida, it's the Home Shopping Club, America's original live discount shop at home TV service. Millions in bargains, thousands in prizes.
Hang on. I had to take my levels up. I apologize for the audio quality, but again, this is from a videotape that's many, many, many years old. After the announcer speaks, they have a little animation. The Home Shopping Club logo flies in over an animation of the Earth. It's dramatic. Then they cut to some shots of the set and the studio. Now, this was a stage, if you will. Think of like a theater kind of stage that overlooked, instead of an audience, all the call center agents. And again, there was no automated system back then, so if you wanted to order, you talked to a live body. And there were flashing lights everywhere. Picture like a game show set. Picture the flashing lights around the Price is Right doors. Flashing lights everywhere. There were spinning lights like you used to see on the top of a police car. Big map of the world that flashed. And so the camera was just kind of panning around all of this before they go to the host, who was on the stage, again, behind a desk. Bob explained this in the episode, and you'll hear Steve Chaney in just a second here once all the random shots of flashing lights are done.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Hear the people
There's
clapping?
Kelly from the back room. Okay, Kelly, there we go. They keep her back there all the time. My goodness, we had to get her out here. That was Kelly. Are you still here? No, she's still here. And I'm still here. But I tell you what, we're going to be going places today. And
Listen to how loud he
going
is.
places. We have got so many items to show you. So many great, including sterling silver. Pest repeller coming up, I believe, in about second hour of the show, right? Yeah. Second hour of the show. We've got a liquidation on white gold, not to be believed. Don't go away, because we're going to take you to the top of the clock like you've never been there.
I can't lie. I miss this era. It's part of the reason I like where I work at Shop LC, because we're probably the closest to doing what they did back then. It was obviously a lot more volume. And there are clips on YouTube, incidentally, of Steve Chaney from the early 90s when HS Home Shopping Club was trying to rebrand. And so he was a lot more quiet, a lot more educational about the presentations, and you'll hear that. And again, I apologize for the audio. It's the best there is. Let's go back to it.
And we're going to start the show right now. Let's go ahead and get started on our first item. Brass and glass, $19.95. Get ready to dial the phone right now, because here we go. Rock bottom. I bet you're waiting for me to say $10. They were. Or $9. No way. This is $8 right now. Take a look at this. Brass and glass. Starting the show with a little bit of class. Brass and glass for you today. Because
oh, my God. Did you hear? It was a little faint. It was hard to hear. The people in the studio would applaud when you got to the price. There was some bells ringing there. It was quite a change from where it is today.
One of the larger ones. It's a full 2.5 inches high and really over 1/2 foot wide. Take a look at it. We've got the Beat the Bargain clock today, and I've already got that taken down. Less than 3 minutes to go. And take a look, because we'll get that clock on the screen for you. Less than 3 minutes. We're going to have a clock on every item, because we've got so many.
Wasn't a ton of product information back then.
Mirrored bottom.
Mirrored bottom.
The mirrored bottom.
Mirrored bottom.
Just the edges. Oh,
box has edges. Good if a box has edges. That's good. And again, I'm not making fun of Steve. I'm a huge Steve Chaney fan. It's just, it could have been Larry Muzzy, Bob Circosta. I mean, they all had the same sort of routine back then, shall we say.
Opens up for you, and this one is very special. It's different because on the sides of this one has that frosted glass.
Frosted glass.
On the sides of it with the sculptured sides. You can see the cuts in there. This one's totally different than any of the others.
Totally different. Remember that.
Doing it today.
Remember that, by the way. That'll come into play later.
So take a good look at it to store all of your knickknacks.
Take a look at it.
And this is the one that's over 1/2 foot wide.
Over 1/2 foot.
3/4 inches wide. A full 1/2 foot in the depth.
1/2 foot.
And it has the feet as well. You can see
it
the
has
little
feet.
ball feet on there. Here we go. About 2 minutes to
Here
go
we
on
go.
this item right now. We're going to get that. Yeah, go ahead. There it is for you. Just under 2 minutes remaining. So go ahead and jump on that line and get in on that deal today. Good evening to you today.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Okay, before we get to this caller here, the callers were an integral part of Home Shopping Club. As soon as the host introduced an item, they started going to the phones. And it would be phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call. You would hear the callers endlessly. It would go from one to another to another to another until they were ready to move on. They'd do one last pitch of the item and then get ready to move on. So basically all Steve was doing was just waiting for the first order to go in so the first caller could go on air.
Good.
You're live on the show.
Yes, I know that.
Oh, good. Well, to whom am I speaking?
I'm Dave, and I live in Lowell, Indiana.
Well, Dave, nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were zooming in on that line today, weren't you?
Yes, I was. My wife has a collection of these boxes, and she loves them.
Now, this is a
Good
new
enough.
one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I've never seen the one with the frosted sides before.
Frosted
neither have
sides,
Well, you
friends.
got it today, Dave. What's your wife's name?
Sandy.
Sandy and Dave, out in Indiana.
Yes, sir.
A big toot to you.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you guys on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Here we go. Now, we still have a good amount of time on this one. Over 1 minute
I think
remains.
Steve's
All
bored
you've got to
with
do
this
is
item.
dial that phone. Good evening to you today. No problem. Here we go. Under 1 minute remains
Caller
right
wasn't
now.
there.
Didn't catch that one. You can get in on that line and pick up the big one for you today because we've got that beat the
yeah,
bargain
and
class,
again,
the
this is
whole
how the
first
show
hour
went
today,
for 3 hours.
because we've got
It was an
so
item.
many great items to
They'd
get out
introduce
here
it,
for you.
get a
Take
caller
look at
on,
this one.
start
It
honking
is
the horn,
Fantastic. Again,
take another
brass
caller,
and
honk the
glass.
horn, take another
15
caller,
class. Down
honk
about
the
40
horn.
seconds to
It
go.
just,
Quantity
but
getting
what they
down
were
there as
doing,
well. Get in on that line. You've got it today.
I
One
think,
more
does he
real
take
quick.
one more call? Yes, he
Hello.
does.
Before we
One
go.
more hello.
Hello.
Well, hello, Steve.
How are you?
I'm just fine.
Well, may I have your first name and from where are you calling?
Oh, my name is Jane.
Listen to how
and
happy
I'm
she
calling
is.
from Hamden, Connecticut.
Hey,
Well,
Jane.
Jane had to get you on to give you a two today.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
How about that?
He sounds
Thank
thrilled.
you.
Because we're
I mean,
going
seriously,
fast
she
today. I wish
does.
we had more time to chat,
Oh,
Jane.
that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Here we go. Clock just ran
There we
out.
go.
Let's
That was
ahead.
it. That was the presentation on the box. What'd you learn about the box? It was over a half foot. It had edges. Mirrored base. We heard that several times. No suggestions of how it's used. And by the way, the whole time, all you saw was a one-camera shot of the box. That's it. There were no what we would call lifestyle shots of it. Not a picture of the box sitting on an end table or maybe with some candy in it. Nope. It was a brass and glass box. End of story. With edges. Remember, Steve did point out it has edges. And again, please don't anybody think I'm making fun of this. This is the way all the hosts were back then. It was how you did your job, which is why when home shopping started to change in the 1990s, many of the hosts couldn't transition with it. And then I found this. Now, I'm just going to advance this a little bit here, because I can see that it's just coming through one speaker. But this is same thing, but this is their overnight only service, because home shopping was successful with this format. And Bob Circosta mentioned this on one of our earlier shows, how they had multiple networks up and running simultaneously, and they had one that just did overnights. Ann Lee. Oh, hear the applause, people clapping. Anyway, so you won't believe this. Again, you can't script this. What's her first item? Well,
And now this will get you shopping for $8. You can fill up this little brass and glass box with all.
yes, it's a brass and glass box. Her very first item was the same brass and glass box that Steve Chaney had. Now, and I addressed this on an earlier show. Why would that be? They sold. This was the 1980s. Little brass and glass boxes were actually popular. Brass and glass lamps were actually popular. People loved these things. You heard the caller. His wife had a collection of these little boxes. Oh, she can't get enough brass and glass boxes. Bring them. Love me brass and glass boxes. I couldn't get on television tomorrow with a brand. Well, I'm going to say, and for $2, give them away. No, there's still people that would buy them, but not in the volume that they did. And they did volume. Home Shopping Club, again, became the big guys. I should say the big guys. Early on, they were the big guys. CBN, which is what we had in Minneapolis, was really the big one back then. But I had to get the context out there. I wish I had more audio of those early days. I have them on the tapes. But I have no way to digitize them anymore. hard to find a VCR that even secondhand I'm having a tough time finding one. Hopefully I'll be able to get one because I want to digitize more of that old audio. Again, quick show, but I had to get that out there so the context of makes sense. Oh, and by the way, the context of...
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.
I will hopefully get to in an upcoming show because there's a reason for both of those. Well, I don't need to play them at the end of this show now, do I? I just did. Like, comment, share. Thank you, by the way, for your reviews. There's some very nice reviews of the show, but especially subscribe. I need you to subscribe if you're listening on one of the apps that you're getting your podcast from. Please subscribe, and I hope you'll check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Sean Wilsey, ShawnWilsie, and on Instagram at SWilsey. Thank you for listening to this edition of Are We on the Air? This has been a King Bobby production.